We are edging increasingly close to a coalition of chaos. Keir Starmer used his New Year's speech today to do what he always does, reveal absolutely nothing about what any of Labour's policies are. Oh, hang on, wait, what's that? I think we've got a Labour policy announcement, have we? Oh, no. We are just a country looking at a Labour leader asking for some words other than non-dom tax status. He spoke today about restoring trust in politics.
Everyone agrees as well that it's been like this for a while, that Britain needs change, wants change, is crying out for change. And yet, trust in politics is now so low, so degraded, that nobody believes you can make a difference anymore.
Trust? This is a flip-flop we're talking about here. Where was he on Brexit?
We agree that we'd put this decision out to the public for a vote? Yes. Did we agree that we'd accept the result? Yes. Have we got to accept the result? Yes. So the first position is a matter of principle.
Yeah, then he said this.
I'm really pleased that whatever outcome the next Prime Minister puts before us, whether that's a deal of some sort or no deal, we've agreed that it must be subject to another referendum. And in that referendum, Remain must be an option, and Labour will be campaigning for Remain.
He set out a £28 billion green investment plan. Now he's rowing back on it. Starmer wanted to bring public services, rail, mail, energy and water into common ownership, nationalise them. And then they've rolled it out. He wanted to protect free movement. Now he's ruled it out. He stands with the unions. I mean, no, not physically, of course. I mean, whatever you do as a Labour MP, certainly a shadow frontbencher, please don't actually physically stand next to the unions because you might get sacked, obviously. So when he says that he won't be hiking tax, do you believe him now? It'll probably be 20 minutes before tax goes up, which brings me on to the Lib Dem coalition of chaos. Ed Davey has parked his removals van on a Tory blue wall, a reminder that it is still not illegal to drive in socks and sandals. And he officially said that he'd get into bed with the Reds.
So I'm focused on the general election. I announced today that we think the general election should be on May the 2nd, and it couldn't come soon enough. We'll be tabling a bill in Parliament next week which would give MPs the chance to call the general election rather than Rishi Sunak running away and hiding away. Let's have that general election now. People need that change.
Yeah, Davey wants to have a £5 billion a year free social care plan. Well, how would they pay for that without tax hikes? Starmer appears to have ruled out just that, though. A Lib Lab coalition would almost definitely mean votes for kids.
A big believer in 16-year-olds being able to express their views, have their vote and win darts tournaments.
Labour wants to build 1.5 million homes. The Lib Dems won a load of local council seats by blocking planning applications. In September, Ed Davey refused to answer 7 times if the Lib Dems would push Britain to rejoin the EU. Neither Ed nor Keir really appeared to know what a woman is. Look, things are bad now. The Tories have been utterly useless, OK? But it is worth thinking about how chaotic an actual Lib Lab coalition would be. Let's get the thoughts now of my panel. We've got Star Daily Telegraph columnist Alison Pearson. We've got Conservative peer Lord Bailey. And I'm just going to call you an anarchist. It's Lisa Mackenzie. Thank you very, very much. It's because, you know why? It's because I can't pronounce ethnographer. There we are. OK, good. Look, Alison, I'll start with you. How likely do you think a coalition of chaos is?
I don't think there'll be a coalition. I think Labour will get a comfortable majority, which will be based on clawing back a lot of SNP seats in Scotland. Red Wall voters who back Boris in huge numbers are massively upset with the non-conservative Conservative government. I think the Lib Dems will pick up a few seats in the blue wall, but I think Labour will. You won't like this, Patrick, but I think they will get a comfortable majority on their own. And I'm hearing from senior sources in the Conservative Party that they are now working out how few seats they'll be down to, and that's with reform only and with Nigel Farage and reform. And I think if it's with Nigel Farage and reform, we could be looking at going below 100 seats for the Conservatives. But should we be afraid? Yes, we should. Absolutely. I think under Keir Starmer, we would have an explosion of wokery. I think our woke civil service, woke universities, woke NHS, they would be given absolute licence to, enforce pronouns on the rest of us. And the net zero thing would go gangbusters and would penalise ordinary working families. The only consolation I can find, Sean Bailey, is that lots of us are going to be under arrest for not using the correct pronouns.
Okay.
And so it's going to be a very nice jail cell with a few of us, isn't it?
Sean, should we be afraid of a Lib Lab coalition?
Look, we absolutely should. Unfortunately, I have some sympathy for Allison's saying. I do think Labour will get a lot of seats back in Scotland, which will make them a real electoral risk. I think the Lib Dems have talked about hooking up with Labour because they know they won't be getting any seats. They may get a few down here in the South East. There's some very cushy parts of the South East and South West that may support them, but I can't see the Red Wall seats doing it. If the choice is Lib Dem, Labour or Conservative, the Lib Dems don't stand a chance, quite frankly, in the Red Wall seats. But I do think it'll be a chaos, and the real reason it'll be a chaos is because Keir Starmer has built a coalition of disgruntled groups. All of the isms, all of those things that he's brought people to him, he has to please all of those people, and that's going to be impossible. And on top of that, how is he going to build the economy? Most of the things he's pledged will cost enormous sums of money. We, forget him, we, the public, don't have it. Okay. There is no government money. It's all our money, and we don't have it.
OK, I mean, Lisa, there does not appear to be too much of a policy in sight at the moment from Labour. If they do get into bed with the Lib Dems, there's going to be huge clashes over tax. There's going to be huge clashes over planning reform and building houses. I mean, the one thing that there doesn't appear to be much of a clash on is votes for kids and potentially maybe even, dare I say it, rejoining the EU.
I don't think that's going to I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not worried about it at all. For a start, how Labour is Keir Starmer, not very. Right. He's a very sort of pinky Conservative, actually. The Lib Dems, let's be honest, what they will do, if they get even a hint of a smell of power, they will fall immediately and say, we will do whatever you want. You know, they've got form on this. I think rather than sort of be worried about the future, let's learn some lessons from the past. You know, Labour is not Labour, and the Lib Dems are what they've always been, is quite yellow-backed.
You're saying that, Lisa, but Keir Starmer, when he was a barrister, represented some of the most unpleasant Islamists and jihadists and got them off and made them stay in our country when they should have been deported. So I can see him coming up, ramping up Islamophobia legislation, which is going to make it impossible for normal people to express their views.
You don't think that he was just following the cab rank rule and doing his job?
I think he once said something like, basically, any qualms about immigration should make anybody feel uneasy. Yeah. But he is not, and I think immigration's bad now. It will be 10 times worse under Labour.
This is the challenge. They've always used the word safe and legal routes, never said what that's meant. In the launch today, never said what he will do. And what's important, whilst you're in opposition, of course, you're not giving too much policy, but when you have an election, it is incumbent on you to tell people what you're going to do. The fact that he hasn't done that shows you that he is worried about what he'll have to do. Well,
every single time not every single time, a lot of the time, when he said something, inevitably there's been the old reverse ferret within seconds. So, I mean, he talks about trust in politics. I mean, I get it. I get it that people will be shouting at their TV screens now saying, well, you know, come on, the Tories are no better. We've had, you know, very squiffy data on immigration. We've had loads of problems when it comes to the Conservative Party. You know, I'm not denying that. But what I am saying is we either don't know what Keir Starmer wants at the moment or he's told us something and then reversed it.
I think we do know what Keir Starmer wants. He wants to be Prime Minister. That is actually what Keir Starmer's always wanted. He wants to be Prime Minister. I don't think
That's fair enough, though. I mean, he's in the right job, isn't he, if he's doing that? You know?
He's in the right job. He's doing the right things, having no policy, not really saying much, you know, not really annoying anybody to any real extent.
I've also been told that Angela Rayner is on a very tight leash indeed at the moment.
I've heard that as well.
She's not allowed. No bevies for Ange at the moment. Well, until she's got to be absolutely no going round, half cut and shouting Tory scum, because that'll,
nothing about Banana Republic.
But the joke about him wanting to be Prime Minister is actually quite true, and that's why he hasn't strode out and said what he wants. He just thinks the Tories have been terrible. If I keep quiet enough, it'll be all about them, not about me. The reason I once got in trouble for saying I admire Jeremy Corbyn. I don't believe at all in any of his politics. Couldn't be further away. But he told you what his politics was. He didn't lie to you. If you voted for Jeremy Corbyn, you knew what you were getting.
Yeah.
If you vote for Keir Starmer, could you say the same?
But that's why Jeremy Corbyn is a bad politician, because he actually tells everybody everything.
But he scared people,
yeah. And that's why Keir Starmer is kind of looking at the playing field and going, I want to be in the top job.
But it comes back. The reason I give it to you in that way, because it comes back to trust. Right? You may not have liked Jeremy Corbyn. I was not a fan, but you could trust what he was saying. If Keir Starmer wants to return to trust, he can't keep switching all the time.
Look, we had Keir Starmer essentially coming out today and saying 16-year-olds should have the vote. Alison, is this a way of trying to rig the deck, do you think, for future generations, future elections?
Yeah, I think it would be absolutely disastrous. They've rigged the debt through immigration. They've basically they've got client communities around the country, and they would do that with young people who they've strove to not have educated properly in schools about democracy and freedom of speech. So that, to me, is a very sinister prospect. I'd be very, very frightened by that. But you've got to accept, Patrick, voters are not looking at Keir Starmer. The visceral dislike for the Tories is so great now that it will overrule any of the legitimate fears we're discussing.
I want to tell you Alison is wrong, but she isn't. And I think Rishi really needs to step out now. He needs to get out and say, look, here's what we're going to do. None of this managerial stuff. Be bold.
I think let's be honest. We've got the British public out there, and the British public always rein in. We are a moderate nation. I'm an anarchist. I'd love us to be more anarchic. We're not. We're a very moderate nation. We're quite conservative with the small c. Once they start rolling out, if Keir Starmer stands up and said, "I'm going to give 16-year-old the vote," I imagine everybody over the age of 25 will go.
But this is part of the reason. This is part of the reason why I'm raising the Lib Lab coalition of chaos thing, because I can see that being one of the red lines for the Lib Dems potentially. And just quickly, because we've not got too long on this, there was a bit of a scoop that you just dropped earlier on there potentially, which is that you believe that behind the scenes at the moment the Tories are making plans for reform with or without Nigel the next election. Do you think you could expand on that a little bit? What's the situation there then?
I think they're just manoeuvring for the person who's going to take over when Sunak is soundly beaten.
Okay.
And I think they are working out how bad is the defeat going to be, and they think it'll be bad if reform will probably take 10% in most Tory. It's going to stand in every single Tory constituency, so they could take 10 to 13%. If Nigel attaches himself firmly to reform, you could be looking at going over 50, between 15 and 20%, and that would take the Tories below 100 seats. So what we're talking about now, Patrick, is who is going to be the next Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch.
Do you think that's who your money's on?
Yeah.
OK. Well, on that bombshell, as they say, we will no doubt return to that at some point. But coming up...